Folake, the sharp voice echoed through the small living room. Segun's eyes blazed as he stood over Evelyn, shaking her awake. Evelyn, known to everyone on social media as Eve the Glam Mom, shaked up from the sofa, her silk scarf sliding off her head. She blinked at her husband, confused and annoyed. "What is it now, Segun?" she asked angrily. Her voice carried the usual irritation she reserved for moments like this when her husband interrupted her sleep. Segun pointed towards their daughter's room. "Ajoke was sick in school today. They called me 10 times. Evelyn, 10 times. And where were you? Sleeping here with your filming equipment scattered all over the place." Evelyn glanced around. Her phone lay abandoned on the table, with its screen lighting up from yet another missed call. She shifted uncomfortably, trying to gather herself. "I'm sorry, I was tired," she murmured. I dozed off." Segun's laugh was bitter. "Tired from what? From posting and pretending to be what you're not?" He gestured at the half-unpacked bags in the corner, filled with borrowed clothes and jewelry. "You were too tired to be a mother today, but not too tired to set up all this nonsense?" Evelyn crossed her arms defensively. "You know what, Segun? I don't know when you'll start seeing this. I'm doing this for us, for our family. Do you think the money people make from this just appears? It's hard work, and this is what it is." Segun stepped back, his voice dropping but heavy with anger. "Hard work? Evelyn, you're not serious. Like you call this hard work? Meanwhile, I'm out there breaking my back every day to pay the bills while you play dress up. Our child was sick, Evelyn. Sick, and I didn't know, okay?" Evelyn snapped, her voice rising. "Don't make it sound like I deliberately ignored her." Segun shook his head in disbelief. However, it hadn't always been like this. When Evelyn first married Segun, things were simpler. They lived modestly, but were happy. Segun's mechanic workshop brought in enough to get by, and Evelyn stayed home, preparing for the arrival of their first child. She loved Segun, but deep down, she always wanted more. Evelyn was pregnant with their first child when they went shopping for baby items. The market was bustling with traders shouting out their prices and customers haggling over goods. Segun held her hand protectively as they moved through the crowd, but Evelyn's face showed her discomfort. She hated the noise, the dirt, and the sweat of the market. "Honey, look at this," Evelyn called out, pointing to an elegant baby dress displayed in a glass case. "Isn't it beautiful? Let's get it for our baby girl." Segun followed her gaze and sighed. "It's beautiful, but can't you see the price tag? Let's just leave it for now." "But Segun," she pressed. "Don't you want our baby to have the best? Just imagine what she would look like in this." Segun shook his head firmly. "Evelyn, I can't afford it. Have you forgotten that we still have many more things to buy? We can get that later, but for now, let's just focus on what we can afford." When he refused to budge, Evelyn sighed dramatically. "You know what? I'm tired. You can finish the shopping. I'll wait for you at my friend's shop." But Segun knew exactly what she was doing. He had seen this behavior before. She wanted him to feel guilty and giving, but he wasn't falling for it this time. "Alright," he said calmly. "I'll finish the shopping. You can go and rest." He watched her walk off toward her friend's boutique, her head held high as if the dusty market and the people were beneath her. However, Evelyn found a new stage for her fantasies: social media. She spent hours scrolling through Instagram, envying the lives of influencers who flaunted their wealth and beauty. She wanted that life. She wanted the admiration, the likes, the comments, the following. So she started creating a similar image for herself. What started as casual posts of her children and daily life turned into an obsession. At first, it was harmless. She posted pictures of herself in carefully chosen outfits, posing in corners of her modest home that looked more glamorous on camera. But as her followers grew, so did her need to keep up appearances. To keep up with the image she had created, Evelyn spent more than she earned. She borrowed clothes and jewelry from friends, rented fancy locations for photo shoots, and even pretended her humble home was a luxurious apartment. One day, she saw a job opening for a cleaner at a company with a stunning office space. However, it wasn't the salary that interested her. It was the beautifully designed spaces that would serve as her backdrop for photos. One day, While coming to work, her manager raised an eyebrow and asked, "Eve, why are you dressed this fancy today?" Evelyn flashed a bright smile. "Oh, I just felt like it," she lied. In reality, she had a bag of cleaning clothes tucked away, ready to change into after her photo shoot. Once, she also booked an expensive suite in a high-end hotel. After Segun left for work, she packed her kids' best outfits into a bag and headed to the hotel. She filmed a vlog titled "A Day in the Life of a Wealthy Stay-at-Home Mom." In the video, she gushed about how supportive her busy husband was, emphasizing how hard he worked to give her and the kids the life they deserved. That night, she called Segun and lied. "Hello honey, we won't be coming home tonight," she said. "The kids and I are staying at my friend's place." Segun sighed but didn't argue. He had long stopped questioning her excuses. Evelyn's online success came at a cost. Segun's family often called him, accusing him of neglecting them. "Segun, why are you lying to us?" his mother asked during one heated phone conversation. "Your wife flaunts wealth all over social media, and you only send us peanuts. Are we beggars?" Segun tried to explain. "Mama, I swear I know nothing about the wealth you see on social media. The money isn't mine." One day, Evelyn heard a knock at the door and opened it to find Segun's younger sister standing there with a bag in hand. Evelyn's frustration boiled over. "Segun, why did you bring your sister here?" Evelyn hissed that night after Shadi had gone to bed. "You know we're barely managing and then you bring another mouth to feed?" Segun's patience snapped. "Barely managing? Come on, we can take care of Shadi. You're just greedy. And don't forget, you're the reason my family thinks I'm lying to them. Your fake posts have turned me into a liar, so deal with it." Evelyn glared at him but said nothing. She hated when he called her greedy, but she couldn't deny the truth. Segun stepped into the small shop near his house, exhausted from a long day at work. All he wanted was to grab some bread and eggs and head home. But the moment Babatunde, the shopkeeper, saw him, his face tightened into a frown. Oga Segun, come. I'm not happy with you," Babatunde said sharply, leaning on the counter. Segun paused, confused. What happened? Did I do something wrong?" "Oga Segun, have you forgotten? You've been owing me for 2 weeks now. And you pass here every day without saying anything. I only kept quiet because you are my customer and I trust you." Segun blinked. "Oh, you? Babatunde? Me? I've not bought anything on credit for a while now, and I don't think my wife has it either." The older man raised his brow and wagged his finger. "So you mean the lady who came here was lying?" "What lady?" Segun asked, now frowning. "She said she's your sister. She came in here and took 30,000 naira worth of provisions and said you asked her to pick whatever she needed and you sort it out." The wall struck Segun like a hammer. Shade, it had to be her. He had been getting strange complaints for weeks now, bills piling up in his name at places he hadn't visited. His chest tightened with frustration. He forced a smile to keep things calm. Yes, I remember now. I must have forgotten. Sorry for the trouble. I'll transfer the money now." As soon as Segun left the shop, his jaw clenched in anger. He stormed into the house, heading straight for Shade's room. But she wasn't there. Instead, he found Evelyn in the kitchen blending some fruits. "Honey, where's Shade?" he asked sharply. Evelyn turned to him, startled by his tone. "She stepped out. She said she was going to see a friend." "Why are you asking like that? Is something wrong?" Segun sighed. "This is the 5th time or more that I've been settling bills from random shops around this neighborhood. Shade has been using my name to take things on credit and it's piling up. Do you know how much I spent this week alone? Over 100,000 naira. Evelyn frowned but said nothing and continued washing her fruits. Don't pretend you don't know anything about this," Segun said, his voice rising. Please. How is this my business now, Segun? Did I send Shade to go buy anything? Don't inform me your family drama, I beg, Evelyn replied, her tone cold. Segun shook his head, his frustration mounting. Eve, you are involved in every way. Your fake lifestyle sponsored this in the first place. I'm not the one you're angry at, oh, so stop dragging me into it, Evelyn snapped. Go and talk to your sister directly. Segun sighed, too tired to argue further. Fine. Just let me know when she's back. This nonsense has to stop. Later that night, Shade returned, looking cheerful and carefree. Shegun wasted no time and called her into the living room. "Shade, please sit down," he said firmly. Brother, what is it? I just got back. Can't I rest first?" Shade replied, her tone defensive. Shegun ignored her and gestured to the chair. "Sit, we need to talk." Reluctantly, Shade sat down, crossing her arms. "Now, why have you been going around using my name to buy things on credit?" Shegun asked. Shade's eyes widened. "What are you talking about?" Don't pretend you don't know. Today, Babatunde complained about 30,000 naira worth of provisions you took in my name. And this isn't the first or the second. Do you think I'm made of money? Shade stood, her voice rising. "So this is what it's about, brother? You're accusing me of stealing now, your own sister. Why can't I take things on credit in your name? How much is it? How much is it, Kwanu?" "Shade, this isn't about stealing or emotional blackmail. It's about respect. Why didn't you ask me if you needed something? Why go behind my back?" Tears welled up in Shade's eyes as she pointed an accusing finger at him. "You've changed, brother. Since you married this woman, you've become stingy and wicked. You send those peanuts back home, but you live in luxury here. Do you think we don't see what your wife posts on social media?" Shegun's chest tightened. "What are you talking about again? Every day your wife flaunts designer bags, jewelry and clothes. Meanwhile, we are struggling back at home. Is that fair?" "Shade, those posts are lies. Evelyn is not..." "Lies? Then why does she have all those things?" Shade interrupted, her voice trembling with emotion. "Shade, look, don't twist this. I'm doing my best to provide for everyone, but there are limits." "Stop lying, brother. You're just selfish and wicked," Shade cried before storming into her room and slamming the door. The next morning, Shegun woke to the sound of a door slamming. He found Shade in the living room with her bag packed. "Shade, where are you going?" he asked, panic creeping into his voice. "I'm leaving," she said coldly. "I can't stay in this house anymore. You've made it clear that I'm not welcome." "Shade, please don't do this. Let's talk about it. We can talk this out." "Talk about what, brother? You've already made up your mind about me. I'm about the right. Don't worry, I'll leave." "Shade, that's not true. You're my sister and I care about you." But Shade wasn't listening. She brushed past him and headed for the door. Evelyn appeared from the kitchen, watching the scene mockingly. "Why are you begging her? Let her go, I beg." Shegun shot Evelyn a glare before following Shade to the gate. When Shegun returned, Evelyn was waiting for him with a mocking look. "Why are you calling that girl back? You should be glad she's going. Do they share their earnings with you? Why do they want you to share yours with them?" Evelyn said, as Shegun hissed and walked past her. A few weeks later, Shegun and his friends went to hang out at a fancy restaurant, laughing and joking loudly together over drinks and pepper soup. The restaurant was lively. The clinking of cutlery and the hum of conversations filled the air. Across the room, Evelyn sat at a table, dressed in a tight red dress that clung to her figure. She looked stunning, but she wasn't alone. A man sat next to her, leaning in close as they laughed and sipped their drinks, while they both took pictures. Shegun's heart dropped. He blinked, hoping he was mistaken, but it was unmistakably her. She was laughing, glowing in the attention of this man, his hands clenched into fists under the table. "Shegun, are you okay?" one of his friends asked, noticing his sudden silence. "Yes," Shegun said quickly, forcing a smile. "Actually, I just remembered something urgent. Can we leave now?" His friends exchanged confused looks, but didn't argue. As they got up to leave, Shegun stole one last glance at Evelyn. She was still laughing, not knowing the storm brewing inside him. Shegun got home with anger boiling within him. He couldn't erase the memory of Evelyn laughing with the man at the restaurant. It felt like a knife twisting deeper and deeper into his heart. Lost in his thoughts, he suddenly heard his name. He looked up to see BC, his teenage neighbor, waving at him from their gate. He walked up to her. "Good evening, sir," BC said happily. But before she could say more, Shegun interrupted. "Is that Dami's voice I'm hearing? Why is he crying?" BC shifted uncomfortably. "Auntie Eve brought them to stay with us. She said she had to run an errand. But Dami wouldn't stop crying. I'm sorry, sir." Shegun's heart sank. "It's okay, my dear. It's not your fault. Please, bring him. Tell them Daddy's here." A few moments later, BC emerged from her house holding Dami. his face red and swollen from crying. The little boy's sob softened as soon as he saw his father. When they got home, Segun set Dami down. He cooked noodles for them, fed them and bathed them before playing their favorite cartoon on the TV. While they were engrossed in the show, he went to shower. Minutes later, he heard her familiar laughter echo through the house. "Where are my babies?" Evelyn's cheerful voice called out as she walked into the kids' room. "Mommy is so sorry," she called, hugging and kissing Dami and Ajoke. The children smiled, their earlier sadness forgotten. Segun, still drying his hair with a towel, stood in the doorway of the bedroom and watched her. She seemed so carefree, as if she hadn't done anything wrong. For reasons he couldn't even explain to himself, Segun decided not to bring up what he saw. He didn't ask her about the children being left with the neighbors either. Evelyn noticed his silence and grew nervous, expecting him to scold her. But when he said nothing, she chose to act like everything was fine. 2 days later, Evelyn didn't return home after Segun dropped her off at her cleaning job. By 9 p.m., Segun started to worry. He called her phone, but it rang endlessly without an answer. He paced the living room, glancing at the clock every few minutes. By midnight, he was certain she wasn't coming home. Frustrated, he turned off the lights and went to bed. The next morning, Segun was seated in the dining room eating breakfast with the kids when he heard the door creak open. He turned and saw Evelyn tiptoeing in, her shoes in her hands. Her makeup was messy. Caught red-handed, Evelyn froze. Slowly, she knelt before him, tears already pooling in her eyes. "Segun, I'm sorry," she whispered. Covering his nose with his hand, Segun asked, "Did you go clubbing? And how much did you drink that the smell is still on you till now?" Evelyn stammered, unable to meet his eyes. I met some old friends yesterday. We are so happy to reunite and catch up on old gist that we lost track of time. I'm sorry." Rising from his chair, Segun shook his head. "You know what? I'm leaving for work." He grabbed his car keys and walked out without another word. From that day, Segun barely spoke to Evelyn. He kept his distance, giving her one-word answers when she asked questions. Evelyn tried to act as if everything was normal, but the tension in the house was suffocating. One evening, Segun came home and opened the fridge to get a drink. He froze when he saw the fridge stocked to the brim with fresh groceries. Curious, he checked the foodstuffs storage room and found it overflowing as well. The kitchen had new appliances, and even the sitting room looked upgraded with new curtains and a shiny new fan. That night, after putting the kids to bed, Segun met Evelyn. "How did all this happen?" he asked, pointing to the new items in the house. Evelyn smiled nervously. I bought them. My earnings increased, so I thought I would support you by buying a few things we needed." Segun knew she was trying to buy his forgiveness, but a part of him felt appeased. He gave her a small smile and muttered, "Thank you." Days later, Segun was scrolling through his social media feed during a break at work when something caught his eye. It was Evelyn's post. Segun's hand trembled as he clenched his phone. By the time he got home that evening, his anger was at its boiling point. "Eve, what is this?" he demanded, pushing his phone to her. Evelyn looked at the screen and covering her mouth as if seeing it for the first time. "Segun, it's not what you think." "Not what I think?" Segun shouted, his voice shaking. "How could you do this to me? All I've ever done is love you, Evelyn. Why do you always pay me back with pain?" Tears streamed down Evelyn's face as she tried to touch his shoulder. "It's not what it looks like." Before she could finish, Segun's hand flew out, slapping her across the face. The force of the blow sent her stumbling backward. She hit her head on the edge of the table and collapsed on the floor. Segun froze. The room became suddenly silent, except for the sound of his own breathing. "Eve, wake up please," he cried, shaking her lame body. Panicking, he carried her to the car and sped to the nearest hospital, tears streaming down his face. Segun sat in the hospital waiting room, his hand trembling as he replayed the scene in his mind. He couldn't believe what he had done. His wife was lying on a hospital bed because of his anger. Moments later, the doctor walked into the room. Segun rose to his feet, his heart pounding. "She's okay," the doctor said with a reassuring smile. "It's just a mild injury. She would need rest." and she can be discharged tomorrow. Relief washed over Segun like a flood. Thank you, doctor. Thank you so much. When Segun was allowed to see Evelyn, she was sitting up in bed, looking weak but conscious. As soon as their eyes met, tears filled her eyes. Before she could say a word, Segun rushed to her side and knelt down. I'm sorry, he said, his voice breaking. I don't even know how to apologize for what I've done. Evelyn shook her head weakly, a tear slipping down her cheek. No, Segun, look what I made you do. This is my fault. I pushed you to this point. Honey, Segun said, gripping her hand gently. You made me do nothing. It takes two to tango. See how much pain you're in because of my anger. I'm so ashamed of myself. They both fell silent, their emotions too heavy for words. After a while, Segun broke the silence. You don't have to say anything now, just rest. We'll talk about it later. Evelyn managed a faint smile. Thank you, Segun. The next day, Segun brought her home. As soon as they entered, Ajoke and Dami ran to her, wrapping their little arms around her waist. Mommy! They chorused, their faces lighting up. Evelyn hugged them, saying, My babies! Her voice filled with emotion. Ajoke looked up at her mother and pointed to the bandage on her head. Mommy, what's that? Did you get hurt? Evelyn smiled softly, fighting back tears. No, my darling. It's a new fashion. A scarf for married women. Ajoke shook her head, curious. So if I'm a married woman, will you buy me this scarf? Before Evelyn could answer, Segun stepped in. No, my dear. There will be even better ones by the time you grow up. Now let's get you to your rooms. Evelyn smiled gratefully at her husband, their eyes meeting for a brief moment. But deep down, they both wondered how many more lies they would have to tell to protect their children. Over the next few days, Evelyn began to recover and the bandage was removed. But the tension between her and Segun remained unspoken, but obvious. They agreed not to discuss their marital issues until she was fully recovered. Evelyn also deactivated all her social media accounts, determined to take a break from the online world. Despite this, Evelyn carried a secret fear in her heart. She was making fears to deal with it before Segun found out, but fate had other plans. One evening, as the family was watching a movie, a loud bang came from the front door. Segun stood up, his brows ached. Who's there? He called out as he approached the door. When he opened it, a young man stood there, looking slightly confused. Good evening, sir. Sorry, I think I'm at the wrong house. Segun nodded, dismissing him. Alright then. As the man walked away, Evelyn's phone buzzed with a message. She ignored it and asked Segun, Who was that? Evelyn asked, trying to keep her voice steady. Just a young man. He apologized and left immediately. But he looks familiar, Segun said, though I cannot remember where I saw him. Evelyn's heart skipped a bit, but she forced a smile. Let's forget about it then. The next day, Segun received a debit alert from their joint credit card. It was a large sum, and they hadn't discussed any major purchases. When he got home that evening, he found Evelyn in the kitchen, preparing his favorite meal, fried rice, vegetable salad and chicken with fresh orange juice. Segun's heart sank. He knew Evelyn only went all out like this when she had something to confess. As he sat down to eat, he noticed her avoiding his gaze. Segun, she began, her voice barely above a whisper. There's something I need to tell you. Segun leaned back in his chair, bracing himself. I'm all ears. Evelyn took a deep breath. First, I want to say I'm sorry. You may hate me after this, but I can't keep it in anymore. Maybe this is my punishment for living for social media. Segun, I haven't been honest with you. All those pictures you saw of me with another man, it was all for content on my page. I hired him, she said. He was supposed to pose as my husband for social media. I thought it would make my page grow and bring in more money. I wanted to create this perfect glamorous image. But when you refused to be a part of it, I thought this was the only way. We started taking intimate pictures and videos because I thought it would help attract more followers. The room fell into a heavy silence. Segun stood up abruptly, turning away from her. His hands shook as he ran them over his face. I don't even know what to say right now. I was stupid. I didn't think it would go this far. But believe me, I didn't mean to hurt you. Please, Shegun, give me a chance to make things right. And how about the pictures of you kissing him? Was that a mistake too? It was all for the content. And the night you didn't come home, Shegun interrupted, his voice trembling with emotion. That night, we were out drinking while filming. After a long silence, she whispered, and there is more. I'm in serious trouble. She then told him about the man who had knocked on their door, how he was the one from the pictures and videos, and how she owed him money. He's been threatening me, Shegun. I used the credit card to pay part of it, but he wants more. Shegun stood up, his hands on his head. So the debit alert was from him? He laughed bitterly. Ha! You finally dragged me into the mess we didn't plan for Evelyn. That night, Shegun slept on the couch, unable to face his wife. The next morning, Evelyn woke up to find her social media accounts hacked. The man had posted all their staged pictures and videos, exposing her to the world. Evelyn collapsed on the floor, her cries echoing through the house. Shegun found her there and immediately understood what had happened. He sat beside her, pulling her into his arms, despite his anger. We'll get through this, he said softly. Over the following weeks, Evelyn worked on rebuilding her life. She found a new job and focused on her family. Shegun, though still hurt, chose to forgive her. Together, they worked on healing their marriage, promising to put their family first.